All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending our workshop Wednesday for today. Pleased to have with us as our main guest speaker, Erin Camp from PowerOptions. Erin is a program manager for energy sustainability and analytics, and we are excited to have her information shared with us today. So, Erin, thanks for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. I'm glad to have you joining us today. I'm going to share my screen here. But I would love to hear from you, since we're such a small group, what towns you both are from. Mark and Caitlin.
I'm from South.
I'm sorry. I'm from Smithfield.
Great. And Mark?
I'm sorry. I'm from South Kingstown.
Great. Fantastic. Well, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, so let's kick it off. So today we're going to be talking about strategies for increasing sustainability. And I am here from PowerOptions. Let me see if I can get my, there we go. Slides are advancing now. So in case you all aren't familiar with PowerOptions, we are an energy consortium, of a nonprofit energy consortium serving nonprofits and public entities like yourselves, including municipalities. And we are, together with Constellation, the selected partner of the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns through the REAP program. So we are the preferred electricity provider through that program. But in addition to that, we also have a number of other offerings as part of PowerOptions, and some of those offerings pertain to what we're going to be talking about here today. So we do have a number of years of experience in sustainability planning and implementation, and so that's what brings us here today to speak with you all. And we've been around since 1998. And we were present in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. And here with us today is Rita Moran, who is your member manager as part of that program. So we have a list here of our key strategies that we like to think about for helping municipalities increase their sustainability. Some of these may be obvious, some may not, but here are the ones that we typically recommend, and I'll be going into more detail about each of these on future slides. So the first is maximize building efficiency measures and convert to electric heat pumps at end of equipment life. We've got transition to electric alternatives in your fleet, and that could be full battery electric, it could be plug-in hybrids, it could be standard hybrids, number of options there. Then we've got adding solar to your buildings wherever possible. And my colleague Walter Gray recently did a webinar for you all on solar. Then we've got utilize software for tracking your energy usage and your emissions across your municipal operations. And then finally, participating in demand response programs that can help you reduce your peak related emissions. And before we go any further, I had a poll which was intended for a larger audience, but since we are just a small group, I thought I would let you all come off mute and share if you've done any of these or started any of these, or if they're all sort of not on your radar yet.
So I in Smithfield, I just started in August, so I'm just trying to learn as much as I can of things that are out there, and just thought this would be a great opportunity for me to learn about things like this. So no, we have not started any of this.
Okay, and I know you're new, but has Smithfield worked on any of this prior to your joining that you're aware of?
No, I'm not aware. I know the transition to electric, they've talked about electric cars, but that's all I've heard so far.
Okay, Great, thank you, Caitlin. How about you, Mark? Anything going on in South Kingstown?
Quite a bit's going on in South Kingstown. So we've recently, hang on one second. Yeah. Sorry, someone was paging on the phone. So we've done we've converted all of our buildings to LED lighting and put in high efficiency condensing boilers in most of our buildings. We have a few left that are or just oil. So I've applied for a grant through the Department of Energy federal grant, the $76,000 grant to convert one of our oil buildings to heat pumps. We've recently installed heat pumps in our town council chambers with air conditioning. It hasn't had air conditioning in about 140 years, so that was a big plus for them last summer. We had some through ChargePoint, we put in some electric charging stations at our Comfort Station on Main Street, and we have 4 electric charging stations at the town hall. Maybe just now we have 1 Chevy Volt that we got as a part of that grant. We're starting to talk now about putting in a canopy for the highway trucks, and we want to put solar on top of that. So that's a big operation right there. I mean, we're talking, I think it's got to be about 200 feet long. So just to house all those vehicles. And the other 2, they utilize the software for tracking our energy. We just track that through a spreadsheet right now. We don't have any of that, any software for that. And or to participate in demand response programs. We don't do that as well, but we're pretty progressive here in South Kingstown.
Sounds like it. That's a fantastic list. I tried to jot down as much as I could about that. So it sounds like we've got, towns on both ends of the spectrum here. So I'll do my best to tie this into both of your circumstances, but feel free to jump in with any questions as I go along in case I'm not completely covering any questions you have. So let's dive in here. So for buildings, I've broken this down into new construction and existing buildings. In existing buildings, this could be major renovations or minor retrofits. So when thinking about new construction, which admittedly is the smallest portion of any collection of buildings, most buildings are existing and not going to be new construction, but it does happen, especially in municipalities. So when you're thinking about what to do for new construction, this is typically the easiest opportunity to make a building as close to a net zero emissions building as possible. What municipalities can do and often do when they're thinking about net zero goals is developing policies that require new buildings to be built with solar, or to be built with roofs that are solar ready. So, and that pertains to the code, of course. And then the same thing goes for installing heat pumps. So either you can have a code that requires new buildings to be built with high efficiency cold climate heat pumps for all end uses, or be heat pump ready. So what that means is the buildings would be required to have the appropriate electrical infrastructure to be able to handle heat pumps at some point in the future, so that the building does not need an expensive electrical service upgrade when heat pumps are finally installed. And then for existing buildings, Mark touched on this a little bit, but typically the first thing that we suggest our members do is improve the efficiency of all buildings first, before anything else happens regarding decarbonization. And there are really strong utility incentives in Rhode Island. So it makes the ROI, the payback, much stronger than if there were not incentives. The second task that we typically advise our members on is switching to electric heat pumps, typically at end of life for existing fossil fuel equipment, so that you're not, wasting existing lifetime of systems that you already have. And then finally, we do suggest creating a roadmap for how to reduce emissions at each of your buildings over time. And a roadmap can just focus on a single building. It can focus on a collection of buildings, looking at all of your city buildings, schools, both together. But it can be very helpful to take a holistic view of your entire building portfolio to figure out what you're going to do when, so that you can build it into your capital planning for your municipality. Any questions so far?
Nope, okay, thanks.
Okay. So let's move on to fleets. Oh, and before I do, I'll just say that I'm just giving a quick high-level overview of how we think about step-by-step actions in each of these categories. And then I'm going to turn to specific examples of what we've been doing for our members to give you some, concrete ideas for what you might think towards doing in the future for your municipality. So fleets, I've broken this down into something that municipalities can do in the short term versus the long term. So it seems simple on paper, but can often be more challenging to get it approved, but very straightforward. One of the easiest things you can do, or simplest things, is adopting an electric first policy for your town, which is a commitment to replacing vehicles at end of life with an equivalent electric vehicle wherever possible. And this is easier to do for light duty vehicles, which are almost always at cost parity with the equivalent gasoline or diesel vehicle, and have a total cost of ownership that is lower than a gasoline vehicle. So, some municipalities have developed an electric first policy that's based on whether it's light duty, medium duty, heavy duty. So, one of the easiest things that you can do is develop an electric first policy for light duty vehicles. If you want to get a little more ambitious, you could throw in medium and heavy duty vehicles, or you could add sort of a contingency based on a comparison of total cost of ownership. But that's a great way to get town-wide buy-in on converting to electric vehicles. And then there's the long-term approach you can take, which is developing a fleet conversion roadmap for your entire municipal fleet. That I would recommend partnering with a consultant, or we can also do this through PowerOptions, but whoever your trusted partner is, to help you think through what the recommended conversion timeline is for each of your vehicles, what the recommended type of replacement vehicle is, what the total cost of ownership comparison is between replacing it with the exact same kind of gasoline vehicle versus getting an electric, and then what your savings will be over time. And also finally, how many charging stations you'll need and where to put them. Pausing for questions. Looks like we've got another attendee. All right, let's switch over to solar then. Hi, Deborah, welcome. We've gotten started. Do you mind just introducing yourself and what town you're from? Okay.
I don't see a mic for her, so I think maybe she's unable. Oh, here's some more people.
Okay, great. More folks. All right, well, I'm just going to continue on and what we can do intros in a little bit. But thanks for joining, Deborah and Lynn. So we're at solar. So two ways you can think about solar, short-term and long-term. First is prioritizing buildings that have recently replaced roofs. And this may have been touched on in the webinar with Walter a few weeks ago, but it's pretty straightforward. In order to maximize the amount of years your roof has left so that you're not having to pull down your solar just to replace your roof when it's at the end of its life, it saves a lot of money. So any buildings that have recently replaced roofs, those should be early targets for thinking about solar. Then in the long term, recommending putting solar installs in your capital plans alongside future roof upgrades. There is some cost efficiency when thinking about putting solar on at the same time as you're upgrading your roof. And this ties into that building decarbonization roadmap that I was talking about a few slides ago, where you think holistically about what you're going to do when to optimize saving money and to make sure that you're not missing anything when the time comes, and that you have them, you know how much it's going to cost and you've got capital for it. Tax credit through the federal government, the investment tax credit is now available to public entities because of the Inflation Reduction Act. So that's a huge win for municipalities to be able to leverage that tax credit, which improves the economics of owning solar instead of just having the option to do a power purchase agreement. And then finally, another option you can think about for sustainability is buying renewable energy certificates associated with an additional, like a newly added to the grid renewable energy project for buildings that cannot host solar. So this is a great way to use renewable energy credits to offset your emissions associated with any electricity that you're pulling from the grid.
Sorry, could you just say that one more time? I'm sorry. It is.
Sure, the last bullet on renewable energy credits.
Please, yes, thank you.
Absolutely. So renewable energy credits can be purchased to offset your grid-based emissions. So when your buildings are using electricity from your utility through Rhode Island Energy, that electricity inherently has emissions associated with it because we're burning natural gas at power plants in order to turn the turbines and get electricity delivered to your buildings.
Okay.
So there's emissions associated with the electricity that you're using at your buildings.
Okay.
If you want to increase the sustainability of your energy usage at a given building, you can purchase renewable energy certificates, which come in a unit of 1 megawatt hour. And so let's say your building uses 5 megawatt hours over the course of a year.
Yeah.
You could buy 5 renewable energy certificates that would offset all of the emissions that you used for that year. And you could technically consider your electricity usage emissions free.
Okay. All right. This is just this whole solar energy thing. I feel like there's so much to learn.
Yeah, there certainly is, and it can get complicated. But it's a great question. One thing I'll add there is that RECs cannot or should not be used as a way to offset any of your on-site fossil fuel usage. So it should only be used to offset your electricity-based emissions.
Okay. And you are recording this, right? We'll get the slides, and this is being recorded because I logged in late. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for jumping in, Deborah. Which town are you from?
North Kingstown.
North Kingstown. Okay, great. We've got North and South. Okay. And Lynn, are you connected to audio? Do you mind introducing yourself? and what town you're from?
Hi, Lynn's from Warwick.
Lynn's from Warwick. Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's continue on then. So data. This is our fourth strategy in our collection, and for Deborah and Lynn's benefit, we covered buildings, fleets, and then solar. So now we're on data, and then the final one we'll cover is demand response. So data. We like to recommend to our members utilizing bill management software to closely track your energy usage and your associated emissions. This is really helpful for you to get a very clear sense of how much energy you're using at each building. And it will be very organized, so you'll know exactly which meters pertain to which buildings, and how much kilowatt hours you're using at each building, how many therms of natural gas you're using at each building, which makes it very easy to calculate what your emissions are at each of your buildings. Once you've got software in place to track all of this, it becomes much simpler to create a greenhouse gas inventory of all your municipal operations, from your buildings, from your fleets, whatever else in your operations might have emissions. And then you can create a baseline year or your starting point year from which you would like to measure your reductions over time. And then you can create targets. For example, I think that my town's baseline year should be 2015 because we started to do energy efficiency shortly after that. And I'd like to be at 50% reduction from 2015 by 2030 and 100% reduction by 2050, for example. And then from there, you can start to publish your progress on your municipal website via a dashboard of your data. So you can show all of your, the folks that live in your town, how you are tracking against your greenhouse gas reduction goals over time, because all of your data is being tracked. Then finally, demand response. If you have any buildings with meters that are on a tariff that have a demand charge, you may be able to reduce your demand charges and also get paid for reducing your demand at peak times. So it's a double win for your town. Again, this only pertains to buildings that have interval meters, right? Because it needs to be able to measure when you're using energy throughout the day. But this is a great way to increase your sustainability at the same time as reducing your costs. The programs include Connected Solutions, which is available through Rhode Island Energy. And you can also do a peak response program through your electricity supplier, which in most cases would be Constellation through the PowerOptions program through REAP. And so you can potentially save money through both of those programs. You can sign up for both. There's no reason you can't. And then you also know that by avoiding usage during peak demand times of the day and of the year, you're ultimately reducing emissions on the grid by using less energy at times when the grid is using the dirtiest peaker plants. Any questions so far? Okay. So now we're going to switch to some concrete examples so you can see what PowerOptions is doing to help our municipal members increase their sustainability. So the program that I manage is called Energy Sustainability and Analytics, and we've got 4 different areas that we help our members with. The first is data analytics and reporting. The second is building decarbonization. Third is fleet electrification. And then the fourth is what we call Energy 360, which is a general advisory offering. And so each of these tie into the 5 strategies we described, I described before. So I'll go into each of these with some specific examples of what we can do for our members. So first, data analytics. PowerOptions has an energy intelligence suite, which is a utility bill management platform. And this is just like what I was describing before, where if you track your data and you know how much energy in terms of electricity and natural gas your buildings are using, it becomes a lot easier for you to know how sustainable your buildings are. And so we offer this to all of our members. The system has a lot of different features, and all of them are listed here. I don't need to go through all of them. You can read them, but the bottom line is many of our members, I think we have like 50 members on this system already. We launched it about a year ago, and it's been incredibly helpful for our members to have all of their data digitized in one place where they can very easily export it and pull graphs from it that they can use for internal documentation or progress reports, budgeting, instead of having to go into each of your utilities' PDF invoices and manually typing in all the usage that you have for every month going back for, dozens, if not hundreds, of your meters across your city and schools. So it saves our members a ton of time and provides a great insight into how much energy each of their buildings are using. You can also do benchmarking across buildings. So you can look at your energy usage at the building level, normalize it by the size of the building, and see which of your buildings is the worst performer or the highest emitter of emissions once you account for the size of the building. So it's a great option to have better insight into where you can have the biggest impact on your municipal sustainability. This is just a quick overview of what that system costs for our members. So we leverage the buying power of our consortium to get a discounted price for all of our members. So if you try and go out and find a data platform on your own, the price would be a lot more than if you go through PowerOptions, because we have the discounted price. All of our members get 10 accounts free on the EIS. So any of our members that have 10 accounts maximum, they would just get the system for free, which is great for them. We also have been doing some projects within Tableau, which is a data dashboard, where we can do custom visualizations of energy data and emissions data within the Tableau software, so that our members can post this on their website. And this is particularly useful for our members who are municipalities and they want to be able to report out their municipal progress on their webpage. And so once these dashboards are built, you can embed it within your municipal website, and then all of your residents can see how you're tracking towards your greenhouse gas goals. Now let's switch to building decarbonization. For Deborah and Lynn, who came a little late, you guys missed the point I made that developing a roadmap for your entire portfolio of buildings is a very helpful way for you to see holistically when you should be doing what to get to net zero over time, and what it's going to cost, so you can start to budget for it going forward, what incentives are available, and navigating all the complicated incentives and funding opportunities that there are for decarbonization. So what we built in response to many requests from our members is a high-level building decarbonization roadmap. It does not involve going on site to any of your buildings. We purely use data that you provide to us. And we use that data to guide you on what you should be doing when to get to a fully net zero building. The analysis includes a virtual energy efficiency audit, a virtual solar assessment. We look at all of your equipment on site that use fossil fuels, and we make recommendations on what types of heat pumps you should be installing, what types of water heaters you should be installing to replace your existing fossil fuel equipment. And then finally, we make recommendations on whether you'll need to purchase any renewable energy certificates. So what we do here is we request a relatively small amount of data from our members in the form of a Excel spreadsheet that we send to them. And then we ask for things like the square footage of your buildings, existing equipment types and ages, roof ages, etc., and then 1 year of your utility bills. And because many of our members are already on using the PowerOptions data platform called the Energy Intelligence Suite, it's very easy for us to just pull the data from that system. And so the key outputs of the roadmap are we provide what the estimated capital costs are going to be, any monetary savings, incentives, financing options, and greenhouse gas reduction potential for each building. And you can ignore the avoided BERDO penalties. That doesn't apply to anyone in Rhode Island. So here are a few screenshots of what a few pages of the roadmap look like. It's about a 10-page document, and it's a glossy report that is concise and comprehensive. And it also includes a technical appendix as well. But this is just to give you a sense of what the report looks like and what you might expect. And I've redacted the names of our member in this example. The building decarbonization roadmap is intended to be an affordable option for our nonprofit and public entity members, intended to be much more affordable than going to, a standard consulting firm and asking them to do, a roadmap for you. And we do price it out based on the number of buildings, and the more buildings you include in the portfolio of the roadmap, the more cost effective it is per building. And you can choose, our members can choose whether they want, to just do a subset of their portfolio or the whole thing. What happens after the roadmap? So all of the PowerOptions members get free implementation support upon the completion of the roadmap. And what that means is we support our members through all of our other programs, which we haven't touched on today at all yet, but PowerOptions has an energy efficiency program where we partner with vetted vendors who work with Rhode Island Energy. Many of you might know that we have a solar and storage program based on the webinar that you all may have seen a few weeks ago with Walter Gray from PowerOptions. And we also have clean electricity procurement. What we don't have yet is a program for helping our members get heat pumps in their buildings, aside from the standard working with an energy efficiency vendor. What we're planning on doing to address this gap is having a competitive procurement program similar to our commodity programs and our solar program for heat pump financing. And we're calling it energy as a service. It's as a model that's fairly new, but it has been operating in this industry for a number of years, and we're trying to bring that to our members so that they can put heat pumps in their buildings with no capital cost. And ideally, bake in energy efficiency projects to help offset the interest over time. So it would be sort of like a power purchase agreement for solar, but for installing heat pumps in your buildings, where again, no capital cost, a fixed payment annually, and you don't have to worry about maintaining the heat pumps. A third party does that for you. Next, we'll go over to fleets. So PowerOptions has been helping many of its members, primarily in Massachusetts, with developing a fleet electrification roadmap, which is very similar to the building decarbonization roadmap I just described, except it's for vehicles, and it's a vehicle by vehicle analysis where we only ask for your VIN numbers, the mileage of each vehicle, and where they're parked. And we provide our members with a 10-page report that tells them when to replace which vehicle and with what vehicle, and savings over time and your greenhouse gas trajectory over time. We also include an assessment of how many chargers you'll need and where we suggest putting them based on how frequently each of your vehicles is used over a year. And here's just some quick screenshots of what that report looks like here. Finally, our last program is Energy 360. And this is essentially a catch-all advisory program where any of our members can come to us and say, you know, I've got a really sticky question or a problem, and I need help answering it with research or data analysis. And so they come to us, and we've got a number of experts on our team, and we build the right team internally, and we do the project. Some of these topics include support with accessing incentives or grants, reallocating net metering credits, developing energy budgets for your municipality, and then also doing research and analysis to look at the impact, monetary or emissions based, of any energy related decisions that your organization is being faced with recently. And just to give you a few examples of that, we had a municipality come to us and say, hey, we want to understand what the emissions impact of of potentially replacing all of our municipal streetlights with LEDs. And so they wanted to ask the question, what's the payback of switching to LEDs, and what's the emissions impact going to be? And so we did the analysis, and we created a memo for them, and went back and forth with feedback. And then that memo, they brought it to the Board of Selectmen of their town to use as justification for making this change at their municipality. Turns out that switching to LEDs was going to save them a ton of money in the long run, and it also is going to make a significant dent in their greenhouse gas emissions. So it was a double win for them. They're saving money, and they're reducing their emissions and becoming more sustainable. So that's just one quick example of a way that we're helping our members increase their sustainability through this advisory program. And I think that is it for my presentation. So I'll open it up to questions, but I just want to remind you that here on this call, as well, is Rita Moran, who is all of the Rhode Island municipalities member relationship manager. So if you ever have any questions that you have for PowerOptions, she is your go-to gal for any of those questions. All right, I'm going to pause now and just let you all ask any questions that came to mind.
Perfect. If anybody wants to just take, I mean, we're a small enough group. If you'd like to take yourself off mute to ask a question, that's perfectly fine. Unless it's Lynn, and she can type it in the chat for us.
I have one question, Darren. Going back to the data logging. You said the 10 accounts are, the first 10 accounts are free to the members.
Yes.
So each building has got the gas account and an electric account. Does that count as two? So we could, yeah.
So it depends. So if you are using a supplier for natural gas, that would be 3 accounts. Unfortunately, because in our region, natural gas is dual billed, there's 2 separate utility accounts. You've got the supplier's account and then the utilities account. So if you have a building with 1 electric and 1 natural gas that you get gas from a supplier, that would represent 3 accounts at that building.
Right, so then you would have 7 left. You go to the next building, and that's most likely 3 more accounts. Okay, because I'm definitely interested in that data logging. That would help us, take a look at where our worst performers are. We do have a solar field. We were in the consortium with the town of Narragansett and the University of Rhode Island, and we put in solar fields. And we received credits through that consortium, and most of our bills are 0.00. So it's going to be interesting to see what buildings use the most power and where we can save that, because then we can use credits on other buildings that are not, it's like the wastewater treatment plant is a huge user of electricity. So the more credits we can get to them, the better off the citizens will be in South Kingstown.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great that you're buying credits for those buildings. And I didn't touch on it today, but since you mentioned it, the data platform that we offer our members, it does not have like a visual interactive dashboard for the net metering credits, but you can do an export every month to see how your net metering credits are playing out at each of your accounts, so that you can better analyze where you can shift credits elsewhere.
Yeah.
So the system does have that capability.
Yeah, we don't purchase the credits. It's on a Brownsfield Superfund site that they just put this solar array on, and it's been fantastic. It's just
Nice.
electricity like every day. So
oh, that's wonderful. Great. Yeah, if you want, we can reach out offline, Mark, and have a more detailed conversation about the platform.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you mind putting your email address in the chat box?
Yep, no problem. You do that.
Thanks. I see Lynn put a comment in here. My biggest obstacle is funding. Can you think of any funding source I can apply for this? Lynn, which offering are you thinking about in particular, amongst, the building roadmap, fleet roadmap, data platform? Sometimes funding is data. That's a tricky one. I don't know of any funding sources for that. Yeah, Rita, can you think of any?
No, I'm not aware of any, so.
Yeah.
Because we had a meeting with Lynn, and the price of the system is, it's sort of in the range.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and we can talk about this more offline, but for our members who have a very large number of accounts, above the tiered pricing schedule that I showed, I think it's 125 and above, it's priced by account. And for those large members, we offer a trial of the data platform up to 10 accounts, so that you can get your feet wet in the system and see if you like it, And then you can decide whether you want to make the investment, because we know it's a big commitment and a big investment when you're talking about hundreds of accounts. So that's something that we could think about for Warwick, if that's of interest. But I'm sorry, I don't know of any funding opportunities for data platforms, but I will keep thinking on it, and if something comes to mind, I'll reach out.
Hi, this is
Anyone
Deb
else?
Bridgham. I'm interested in speaking to you about the fleet program. We do have some consultants working on other things for our electricity, but again, I'll still be open-ended on, looking at your company also. But we lease a lot of, we purchase to lease to purchase, sorry. And I've only been in the job here for a few months. So I'm not up on when we need to switch our vehicles to electric, but we do have a fleet management program where we purchase so many vehicles every year. So I will, do I send that to Rita, respond to Rita for the email?
Yeah, that would be great, Deborah. We'd be
Okay.
happy to help you with that.
Okay, so I'll send Rita, I'll put it in the, a note to respond to you with my email. And if you could just give me to like December 1st, because I'm just trying to finish up my audit. So I want to have full concentration, and then I'll be doing budget, so it'll be a good time to talk about the fleet end of it.
That sounds great. And great to meet you via this meeting.
Awesome.
Okay, anybody else? All right, well, thank you so much, Erin. This was super informative, and always great to see you, Rita and Meg. And thanks everybody for joining us today. I will circle back around with the recording of this, and it will also go on our YouTube channel. And we'll make sure it gets out to all the other folks who weren't able to make it today. But thanks again. And if anybody has questions in the meantime, please feel free to contact me, and I can circle you back into whomever you need to contact. All right. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you all.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye, you too.
Thank you.
Thanks.